Hey friends, what's up? How's it going? Ash here. Welcome back to Gents. Hope that you're doing well. Got another fragrance release for you guys, a new fragrance from the house of Michael Kors. And it's been a minute since we've had a new Michael Kors fragrance, and I think this one could be the start of something good. Maybe. We'll talk about it. So the fragrance is this one right here, the new Michael Kors Homme. And if you're familiar with Michael Kors fragrances, you will notice right away, this one looks pretty different. It's definitely got a unique bottle style to it. So this one just came out, and Michael Kors fragrances, they got kind of an interesting place in the fragrance world, at least in terms of men's fragrances. For me, I've always, at least internally, kind of put them more toward like Coach for men than Armani in terms of just like the hierarchy of where they fall. The question is, does this shake things up a little bit? And a lot of that probably has to do just with the brand itself, right? Like Michael Kors, you kind of expect, at least in the US, to find those at outlet stores and not for a huge price. Even though I know they have higher end stuff, it's a brand that generally you don't think of as being as expensive as like Armani, Versace, Gucci. I mean, Michael Kors, everybody knows it, but it's not quite the same, right? Yeah, there's gonna be a lot to dig into here. Let's start off by taking a look at the presentation. So here we've got the box. On the front there, you have the name of the fragrance, name of the house. Pretty simple, a little minimalistic. It's an eau de parfum, 100 ml size. Nothing on the sides. It says Michael Kors up top. On the back, you have your ingredient information. And on the bottom, you will find your barcode. And the badge code is right there above the barcode, but it is really difficult to read off the box. The code is 2412403. And here we have the bottle. Like I said at the beginning of the video, an interesting design, very different from the earlier Michael Kors fragrances. It feels heavy in the hand. Like this does not feel cheap and lightweight. Has a unique kind of chain link design on the front and the back of the bottle. On the bottom, you have a sticker with your batch code. It says Michael Kors across the top of the cap. Cap has a little touch of heft to it as well. And let's say we go ahead and share a couple sprays here. Atomizer on this one, actually really good. Check it out. Nice pressurized atomizer. So with this one, I would say this is a step up in terms of quality of presentation compared to their previous releases. Now, before we go any further, I will have this one linked in the description. Feel free to check it out there. And here are some codes that you can use to save yourself some money, including some new codes for JOMASHOP. So these codes will expire September 18th. And I think at that point, there's gonna be some new codes that come out. These are only good in the JOMASHOP app. So you have to be using the JOMASHOP app when you shop to get these discounts. Gents 10 will get you $10 off any order over 180 bucks. And then there's Gents 15, which will get you $15 off any order over 250. So again, Gents 10, $10 off anything over 180. Gents 15, 15 bucks off anything over 250. And you have to use those in the JOMASHOP app. So what you could do is you could look through everything on the website, find what you want, and then just search it up on the app, add it, boom, good to go. Save yourself a little money. Okay, let's start talking about this new one here, Michael Kors Homme. When it comes to Michael Kors, for me, the first fragrance I think of is this one right here. This one came out in 2001, Michael Kors for Men. And this is a great smelling sweet tobacco fragrance. Unfortunately, this is discontinued now. It's not all that easy to find. Once upon a time, it wasn't that difficult, but now it is. Oh, I love it, man. A great fall and wintertime scent. And yeah, I know at this point it's 23 years old. You would expect it to smell really dated, but I think the sweetness in there keeps it contemporary. Maybe if you're like a teenager or something, you would smell that and be like, it's a little too old smelling for me. But really anybody like mid-20s and older can pull that one off. And then in 2014, they came out with this. a new version of Michael Kors for men. You can see there it looks really, really similar in terms of the presentation style and everything. They just basically moved it from saying Michael Kors right here on the front, and actually if you have earlier bottles, I think it just says Michael right there, and then moved it over to the side here. And while they have different note breakdowns and everything, this is still pretty similar to that. And for a long time, this was about it. But they're darn good, so I'm not complaining. And then in 2015 and then 2017 through 2021, we got the extreme fragrances, which I own, I think 5 of them. So it's just a bunch of different extremes. Like this one is extreme speed, extreme night, and then there's extreme blue, extreme sky. Just the extreme fragrances, I guess. And they're not awful. Some of them are better than others, but none of them really caught on in a big way. And the last of those was Extreme Journey, which came out in 2021. So basically since then, there's been nothing until now. And you can tell that Michael Kors basically looked at what they had done before and this extreme line of fragrances. Again, they came out with almost 1 per year. And they said, that's not really working for us. They probably saw what a lot of other fragrance brands out there were doing, or fragrance houses, and they said, we need something new, something that's gonna sell. That's what this is. Now, I will tell you guys, this new Michael Kors Pour Homme, when you smell it, if you've smelled a lot of fragrances out there, you're gonna be hit with this feeling of, I've smelled stuff kind of similar to that before. And yeah, it's one of those fresh, you know, semi-sweet aromatic fragrances made to be worn basically as often as humanly possible. And again, going back before to what I said, comparing this brand to Coach, that's kind of what Coach for Men was like when it came out, right? Coach for Men came out and people smelled it and they were like, yeah, it's good, it's versatile, but you know, it does smell similar to some other stuff out there. But as time went on and more people got their hands on it, they realized, it doesn't really matter that it smells a little similar to this or that. It's easy to wear, it looks good, gets compliments, doesn't cost that much. I'm gonna go for it. And now Coach for Men is actually one of the best selling men's fragrances in the world. I am 99% sure Michael Kors saw that and other brands doing things similar, and that's why this exists. So yes, when you first spray this on, you first smell it, you probably are gonna feel like, it's a little this, a little that, little this, little that, and it is, but it doesn't smell the exact same as anything else out there. It's not one of those fragrances where I smell this and I think, oh, this is 99% that. So when you first spray it, how does it smell then? Very fresh, clean, a little bit sweet, but not overly so. It doesn't go full-on bubblegummy or anything like that. You have a nice marine kind of sea salt accord off the top. You get some bergamot in there as well. A bit of lavender, fresh spice, geranium. It's stuff that has been done, but it's done really competently. I sprayed that on, smelled it immediately. Does not smell off-putting, nothing sticks out. It's blended together well. That little hint, that little sprinkle of sweetness, it sticks throughout the fragrance, but again, not overdone, which I think is great because it makes this more wearable in more situations. It doesn't come across smelling overly youthful, but younger guys can still easily pull this stuff off. You get a little sage in there as it dries down. Ambergris is one of the base notes. Really, it's more of an ambroxany, fresh woodiness, maybe a little amberwoody type feel to it as it dries down. And the fragrances that it reminds me to the most are probably this one, Invictus, but not exactly, and maybe a little why, but not exactly. And maybe like these 212 Heroes, Jimmy Choo Urban Hero, but if you change them considerably. So I guess kind of not. Like Jimmy Choo Urban Hero has a lot of leather in there actually, and this does not. So it has a similar type of sweetness for a little bit, but then they go their own ways pretty drastically. So I don't think they're that similar, and also, man, cap really doesn't do a good job clicking into place. Oof. And then 212 Heroes has more of this like green, sugary sweetness to it, and it's more overloaded on the sugary side, which makes this one smell much more youthful. So again, not that similar, but when I was first wearing this, that's kind of where my brain was going. I was like, ah, yeah, it's got like this sweet aspect that reminds me of those other ones, but then when you wear them on side by side, you realize pretty different. And honestly, the same thing happens with these. I would say it's a little closer to these because it has that kind of marine aspect, that little bit of a salty aspect that Invictus has. But as I've said, it's not quite as overdone. It's not quite as aggressive with that. This one I find a little bit classier overall. And why Eau de Parfum is gonna be sweeter than Michael Kors, heavier than Michael Kors. Now they have that amber woody kind of base to them, but whereas why Eau de Parfum would make a great evening fragrance, I think Michael Kors leans more toward daytime use. So you're gonna get that apple, that sage, again, that sweetness, more of that depth from Why Eau de Parfum, whereas this one is a little bit more sparkly, kind of fresh aromatics, fresh spices, and then sweet, yes, but not overly sweet, and with more of a lean on that marine side of things, that salty side of things here than Why Eau de Parfum. So Michael Kors is gonna fall into that kind of area where it's going to invite some people to be like, this is generic, this is boring, this is done, this is played out. But then when you smell it side by side with those things that it's compared to, you go, oh, yeah, I mean, there's some similarities there, but it's not the exact same. It's actually doing its own thing, and the longer it stays on your skin, they, do this and go their separate ways. But yeah, it's absolutely going to make you think of some other things out there. It's just inevitable when you make a fragrance that's kind of trying to play in that wheelhouse, right? But at the end of the day, does it smell good? Is it wearable? Yeah. It has good versatility. You can use it about year round. I think maybe it leans more towards spring, summer, early fall, or just fall in general, I guess, spring, summer, fall, and more of a daytime scent. But fragrances like this that are made to appeal to as many people as possible, you can wear whenever you want. So for me, this Michael Kors fragrance, I approach it as, does it do what it's very obviously made to do, and does it do it well? Well, it's made to be worn. It's made for versatility. Do I think it does that well? Yeah, for sure. Pretty much year-round usability, even though, again, not made as much for cool weather or evening use, but most of the times you'd want to wear a fragrance, this will fill that void for you. Do people like it? Yeah, actually, overwhelmingly so. Surprisingly so. Just the other day, my wife had some people over and we were getting ready to go out somewhere. I sprayed that on before we left, and as we were leaving, a couple people were like, hey, what is that you just sprayed on? I can smell it. It smells awesome, what is it? And I was like, it's the new Michael Kors. They were like, oh, that's really good. So it's one of those things where, as somebody who smelled a million fragrances, you smell it and you go, yeah, this is pleasant, this is nice. Reminds me of this, but it's nice. For normal people, they smell it, they just get the nice, right? And that's what this is. It's made to be worn. I appreciate that it's not face smashingly sweet, and it's actually a little different from the majority of things coming out now. I know in the grand scheme of things, not hyper unique, but compared to all the vanilla stuff that's coming out right now, a little different. It's priced at $119 for full retail for the 100 ml size bottle. That's not bad compared to most prices of things nowadays. I think though, for a lot of you out there, the sweet spot here is gonna be when it hits discounters. And I think if once this hits discounters, that price creeps down to be more in line with the expectation, I would say, of what a Michael Kors fragrance goes for. I think that a lot of people out there would be really, really happy with this one, very pleased. And to my own personal taste, I would rather wear this than K, for sure. I would wear this over Dolce & Gabbana K, any of them. I wouldn't choose this over something like YSL Y or Sauvage or Bleu de Chanel or anything like that. But for a mid-level, versatile, easygoing fragrance that you can wear to the office casually, on a date potentially, it does the job really, really, really well. So I've got nothing to hate on here. For me, this makes absolute sense as a first release in a line, because when you come out with a new line of fragrances, you have to have something that's gonna sell, that people are gonna wear, that people are gonna talk about. You don't come out with something that's really difficult to wear, that's divisive as the initial fragrance in a new fragrance line. If you do that, it's dead in the water. You have to approach it from their point of view as well, I think. You don't want to come out with something that's really trying to push the envelope with something that's never been done before as an entirely new line's launch. Their single line for men at this point, because you're just setting yourself up to fail. If you come out with something as your first release and you're like, here's something completely out of left field that probably 50% of you are gonna hate, you just killed the line. It's dead. You think anybody's gonna be looking for the next flanker? No, no sir. So when they come out with something new, they need something that's gonna sell. And it makes sense. Take something a little fresh, a little sweet, put it together, a little touch of this, a little touch of that from proven fragrances, but put your own little twist on it, make it unique to an extent. Boom, sell it for a good price, which this one is priced at a competitive price. And then after this kind of catches on, you can come out with your flankers, maybe push the envelope a little bit more with those down the line. So Michael Kors Pour Homme, I think when you take all of that into consideration, is a good release. It's not overpriced, it is versatile, it does pull compliments. Yeah, it's a little similar to some other things out there, but it's not the exact same. As I said, they put a twist on it. And when you consider what you're probably gonna be able to get this for down the road, that's great. And they up the presentation. Looks unique, like I said, feels heavy, pressurized atomizer, it's all good. So there we go, Michael Kors Pour Homme. Fully expect to see this catching some hate, especially as it's initially launched. Maybe, as I said, as time goes on, more people get their hands on it, wear it out, get some compliments and realize they can pick this up on the cheap and just kind of keep re-upping. And then I think a lot of people are gonna come around and go, it's actually not too bad. So there we go. Thank you guys. Stay safe out there. I'll see you tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you guys later.